Hello, welcome back to Oxford City, and today we're going to be covering a couple of things. First, we're going to fix this issue with our residential demand. We'll try and cover some of the commercial demand as well, possibly put a bit of industrial in, and then I think it's probably time that we start working on our traffic issue. So yeah, we can see there we've got a few errors from not enough customers. We should hopefully fix that once we have a bit more residential in place. So first step, now I often forget to do this, but remember this time around, let's just check which way the pollution's going. It's all over the mountain, so we're kind of free, below the, like in line with this highway here, or highway, the large road there, beneath the railroad is fine. We shouldn't have any issues with that air pollution. And then let's just check the natural resources. So we are encroaching on that oil a little bit, but that's fine because our main industrial area here, lots of oil there, so not too much of an issue. In terms of when we can get oil though, I don't think it's, no, not available just yet. Although we're getting there. Yeah, so at the minute, none of our industry is specialised, but been kind of holding out on that until we have a bit more industrial demand in terms of the water. So yeah, I think where we're going to place it, we've already used up some of those water resources, but we've got access to the river down there, so that's not really a concern either. So I think we're fine. We can go ahead, purchase a couple of more tiles over on the left-hand side, and then we can get started. So we'll go through the usual of placing down these medium roads just to kind of lay out the rough area. I've sped up the time just because it's not particularly exciting to see me place lots of roads down. So that's kind of divides the area now. I'm hoping that these medium roads will last a while in terms of keeping the traffic flowing. Then we can come in with the smaller roads, kind of define the neighbourhood area, just lining it up there, using the grid, just deleting a couple of them. And yeah, you can see there's some odd gaps here. So if I maybe delete a few more roads. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. That gap in the middle there, we can do a path down there, perhaps. Maybe not, actually. Maybe it doesn't quite fit. Anyway, finish off some of the roads. So just connecting to that medium. Now we don't want too many connections there because it's going to cause a bit of a traffic jam with all the traffic lights. Bigger section up here. So we've got a bit of a cleaner grid set up. Just adjust this just to make it a bit more interesting than the typical grid. Not thinking too much about how I'm placing it down, just trying to come up with a few different patterns so it doesn't look too identical. Again, just a few connections to the medium roads. Don't want to cause too many places to stop, so that's kind of how it looks from slightly further out. So you can see residential-wise, it's quite a big expansion for the town as it is. So we've obviously got a lot of area to expand still. Obviously, you want to make the most of those mountain areas and the hills, but at the minute, kind of need a solid base to build from for our city. So now's probably a good time to work on some of our demand. So I think keep with the same idea of using the commercial around the outside. So up against that, the medium road, and we may see a few spawn in facing those internal small roads. And then this is all going to be small or low residential. Not looking for any more high rises there because that's our low density is where we're currently seeing our demand. It's quite typical in a smaller city like this that you'd predominantly see low density until you're a bit bigger. You can see that because of the level of demand they're populating pretty quickly. It's made a big dent in our demand for commercial and our residential. Still got a little bit of industry. Now if I place this here at least temporarily, We can worry about some specialisation later. That's enough to wipe out all of our industrial demand. You see lots of cranes and constructions going on there. Now we've got this central part here, which feels like it would be a good place to start a small kind of park. Obviously quite a long one, long and skinny one, but nonetheless, just trying to line up using the meters there. So we can have that kind of slightly different design in the middle, just to break it up a little bit. And then grass-wise, we can place the surface down. So go with the grass surface one. So that's the one that doesn't have the mowed-in lines, but still looks quite nice. Now, you do a bit of detailing around these edges, maybe some park benches, that kind of thing. So got a pavement view instead. Not too worried about exactly where the lines go, and you can zoom out a little bit to try and get a rough idea of the symmetry. Now we can throw a ton of trees down in this central point. One are looking quite dense. Not too worried about the actual placement, so I find it quite easy to just use the group tool, up that intensity quite a bit, and then you can come through and tidy up where some of the trees have gone where you don't want them. So if we do a bit detailing here, so doing it identical in all the corners. So I have a bin and then a couple of benches in each corner. Keeping this quite plain. Then maybe a couple of flower pots just to add a bit of colour to the area. Otherwise, don't really think I'm going to do anything more here. Except, actually, yeah, maybe a few lights. Just about fit it in that pavement. I'm going to like to go through the centre point to try and keep some of that symmetry. Wrong light placed there. Yeah, they just kind of roughly take a half each time, and it should be a bit easier in terms of coming up with that symmetrical view. So again, think lots of trees populating these lines here, either side of kind of the long entrances to the park. Again, not really a fan of placing them down individually. I find it then ends up too symmetrical. So much nicer just to use the grouping tool. So we can kind of see all the way along the path. Maybe a couple of signs either side. That's probably all that we need to do. Let's just slow it down a bit now. Just have a quick look around. So it's kind of parked from afar. I'll maybe do a couple more areas around here. Just thinking where would be best to add a bit more detailing. Because actually the layout that we've chosen, at least down here, has created quite a few gaps. So you can see, yeah, there's going to be a gap there, not going to have anything spawn. But this little section here as well. So I think in time, maybe not on screen, I'll probably fill in most of these areas. But perhaps we fill in a couple more now. Lots of identical houses along this road. We've got this big, not big, it's long. It's quite skinny, even skinnier than the last part we've done. Gaps behind those houses. You can see I've already got residential demand up, quite a bit of medium already. Could maybe throw a bit more commercial around this top. Obviously with all those new residents moving in, we've now gotten a bit more commercial. Could maybe actually fit some medium here. That's actually the perfect size to then have a quite a large kind of medium density building going. And I won't put any residential against the main road, but we can put the commercial there instead. Gives that spawn nicely. So just take a second to think. What should we do next? Yeah, so we do have the transportation to work on. So if we have a quick check of that. So yeah, at the minute we don't have any public transport set up. So we're not going to see anything there, but traffic, that's what I was struggling to find then. You can see this kind of main intersection coming in from the highway and kind of this main intersection here into that kind of medium density area. It's mostly where we're seeing our issues. So a few problems. But before I get distracted by traffic, probably best to come back and do a bit more of this detailing, and then we can fix the transportation issues in a second. So here we are. I've chosen to do this section here. So it's at the back of a few residential areas. It's got the perfect gap for one of those alleyways. I'm just changing this to get rid of that zebra crossing, because otherwise it's causing a zebra crossing straight onto an intersection. So I think the idea here is kind of make it look like this is like parking at the rear of the building. It's going to be a fairly simple approach. So if we just concrete the back and maybe use some of the carport. Oh yeah, just changing those assets, just deleting them and hoping a new one forms that's fully the full length. Then we can throw some of these carports down, trying to line them up all on the right hand side. Then a couple of parking spots. There we go. So, nothing too complicated there. I think that's fine how it is. I might come back and revisit that and put a bit more effort in the future. So we've got another little section here. And another section on the left hand side. I think this is the one where there is some zoning in there, but it won't now spawn because it's not attached to the road. It would need to be kind of one of these buildings at the back here that would need to be larger. So I think another spot where we could just pop up there, hit the next level of town, but we do a little walkway around the outside, being careful not to clip that commercial building that we have there. Trying to break things up with a bit of a curved shape rather than all straight edges. We could throw in the grass. I think because we're going to do a playground here, if we actually have a different colour of pavement there, throw the sign in. Now, because it's a bit more small scale, I switched to just placing things individually, so kind of bigger bushes, a couple of trees. It's quite tight on that edge between those two paths. And then place a couple of playground assets down. And it's very quickly, in a couple of minutes, just come together in quite a nice looking park. Probably fit a couple of more lights in. It's convenient. And then throw, we've got the park side down, but maybe around the playground, put a couple of signs there. Probably a disclaimer that the builders and local government would want up there, so place that one down there. This one looks like it has a bit more information on it than just the park sign that we have at the front. Try and line it up with what we've got available. And I always misclick to make it spin slightly, which is frustrating, but there we go. It's done. Yeah, and that's a pretty quick park, but it's quite nice and fits into an area that was otherwise dead space. I'll have a quick look round, see if there's anymore. This is quite an open space, this one. Probably worth doing something with this because it's going to be quite obvious, this gap from afar. Just thinking it's going to be another long path. Perhaps going out around the outside. And I think when I was putting this together, I was hoping it would be wide enough for a skate park. A poor choice of concrete there. There we go, that's a better one. And it does actually fit quite nicely with gaps either side, which feels quite ideal. That ramp is far too big, but we can put this one down instead. There's quite a lot of different skate assets here, so it does allow quite a bit of variety when you're placing them down. Obviously, this kind of advantage of using that developer mode. That skate park that default comes with the game is quite a tight kind of square shape, so wouldn't really fit in the shape that we've got here, but this kind of long, fairly skinny gap we have is perfect for then coming in and doing some more customizable assets. So we'll just place some benches down. And that's kind of it. We can put things together pretty quickly when it comes to kind of the skate parks. Probably just need to do a bit of adding trees and bushes at the front. That's a very tight area where we can fit these large trees in here. And we can't actually fit them on the other side because of the radius around them. So decided to back those out. We'll go for something a bit smaller. So I think the pine is quite a bit smaller there. We can alternate it slightly, and we're not going to have the issue with those radius. Now, come and fill a bit more areas in with some bushes. And that's probably all we really need to do to finish that part off. Right, so we've got a little playground there, skate park there, got the main kind of central park for this neighbourhood. Oh, and then obviously the carport over to the left here, or the car parking area at the rear of the properties. So a couple of different assets, like different shapes on all of them, which is quite interesting. But there we go. There's a few bits of detailing from the developer tool. So now on to the issue with traffic. So I think the idea here is, rather than try and make changes to our intersections or our roads, the first step is we're just trying to reduce the amount of cars on there. Obviously saying that whilst adding all those extra residential areas is going to be adding lots more cars, but if we can throw in a bus system, make the spots where we place our bus stops fairly optimally, we should reduce the need for so many vehicles on the road. Now the first step, putting together any bus route, is we need the depot. So a couple of upgrades, we can have electric, so we'll maybe push for more environmentally friendly a bit later, but to begin with we just want buses coming out. So we'll add a few garages in, because no doubt I'll forget and surround this area with interesting bits, so everyone looked pretty happy that there's some bus depots down and a few abandoned buildings there. I'm sure they'll all flood back once we get some buses coming. So now for placing some places for our buses to stop. So we've got the bus station here, but it's quite a large asset. I don't really think we've got any areas that we really warrant a bus station yet. Maybe towards the office district, but we really need some higher density stuff before we can place it down. So I think we're probably just going to settle for the bus stops and shelters. So if we maybe start up here in the industrial area. Place one down there in the office area. Now there's a lot of density here, so just going to focus on this residential area. Placing a few fairly spaced out. Trying to remember what direction that the bus is travelling at that time. And then, so I can come up with a name for the bus, place a district down there. So Evergreen Grove is the name it generates. Don't typically change them, not creative enough to come up with any better names than that. So I'll place our line down, just filling in the dots, and then change the name to include the district, and then have an idea of what the train is, or what the bus is doing. For instance, this one's just a commuter, so it's going to the offices, going to the industrial. We'll just call that Evergreen Grove commuter. Quite helpful when it comes back to looking at this list in a big city and there's lots of different lines that you've got. Makes it a hell of a lot easier when you can then get a rough idea as to what each bus line is doing. That's fine. So they should start to spawn the buses now. It may take a little bit for them to wake up and realise they've got a whole new route to run. So you can see the employees tick up a little bit there. Oh, there we go. First bus is coming out. And there'll be a lot of buses now spawn, all trying to get into the right rhythm of going around at the bus line. So it might take a little bit for them to kind of spread out optimally. So you can see you've got 6 buses at the minute over the 10 stops. And it'll also take a little while for the passengers to then start to choose this as an option of transport rather than drive. So that only covered the bottom neighbourhood. So we could really do with adding one for this top section as well. So put some more bus shelters down. So I think we're just going to attach it to the current, well, you can see all the buses coming down there, the main street, or to the current office and industrial area. So we just need to fill in the residential bits. I think that's probably enough. So new district for this area. See what it generates. Sheffield Downs. So we'll come in, fill in this line. And I realised I put that bus stop the wrong way around. Would have just been frustrating to leave as it is. So changed it round. And there we go. Second line. Same as before. Sheffield Downs. And it's a commuter bus line. I'll change the colour slightly. Don't really have any reason behind the colour choices. Just try and pick something that contrasts to what we've currently got. And this is our first one, Evergreen Grove. So you can see 169 passengers already. Hopefully that does enough to improve some of the traffic situation we've got here. If not, then maybe we'll focus purely on traffic management next time round.